Welcome to Forensic Science Sunday, where I tell you one true crime case that was solved using forensic science, all while doing, that's right, my makeup. Today's video will be featuring the Fade into Hue palette by Colourpop. All the other products I'm using in this video will be linked in the description below. Please read the disclaimer. I am not a professional forensic pathologist, nor am I a professional makeup artist. I am just the average girl at home like you, planning my makeup. Sometimes I do my nails while I talk about a true crime case. So if that's something you're into, then you are more than welcome to go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Also, a quick reminder, the comment section is a privilege. Don't fuck it up. Now let's get into today's case. Has anybody else been feeling like extremely tired for the last couple days? I don't know, it's weird. Hopefully I haven't been drugged. This story all takes place in November of 1995 in Los Angeles, California, where 27-year-old model and aspiring actress Linda Elaine Sobek lived. Linda had an apartment right off the boardwalk of Hermosa Beach. Now this was back in 1995, before LA was the devil's asshole that it is today. It was back when it was still pretty decent. Linda had been working as an LA Raiders cheerleader. She had been doing that for the last 5 years, and that is how she made all of her money, and she was quite popular. She was actually named Raidette of the Year after just being a part of the cheerleading team for 3 years. She was a gorgeous woman, and I mean gorgeous. Like, you guys, you have to see these photos. Oh my God, I did it once again, where we put foundation on before the concealer. Zahara, why did you do that to yourself? Eventually, she moved into modeling, and not the runway type model or fashion model, because she was pretty short. She was only 5'4". That's around my height. I'm actually 5'2.5", 5'3". Sometimes. I know people are like, how does your height change? I'm like, don't worry about it. Okay, bitch, don't worry about it. Just know that when I say I'm 5'3", I'm 5'3". And when the doctor measures me as 5'2.5", they're making a mistake. The type of modeling she was doing would be considered print modeling. It's basically the girls that, you know, you see in commercial modeling or on like beauty products. She did a lot of magazine work. She was a swimwear model, so she modeled a lot in like these car magazines, calendar modeling. She did some beer posters and things like that. She was becoming quite successful at it, and she really wanted to move into acting though. That was like her next venture that she was ready to get into. And it just so happened that on November 16th of 1999, she had an audition for the very popular TV series Married with Children. I don't know if you guys remember that show, but I actually do. You know what, you guys? I'm actually tired of bleeping out like my curse words. We're all adults here, okay? And I just don't care anymore because I feel like YouTube always demonetized me. I'm like an instant demonetization just because of the topics I talk about. Now, Linda had gotten a last minute call for a shoot that day that was supposed to happen in the afternoon before her audition. And so she called her mother that morning to let her know that she was actually running late for this shoot that she was supposed to do, this last minute shoot that had come up. And she would call her back later because they had plans to all meet. They had plans to get together for their family barbecue, and she was gonna call her mom, and they were going to like continue talking about it and making plans for the family barbecue. Now, Linda, she was never one to just go somewhere and not tell people where she went, especially on a shoot or any type of gig. So after talking with her mother and letting her mother know that, you know, she would call her later once she was done with the shoot to discuss the barbecue. So Linda packed her wardrobe and makeup and a few of her belongings for the shoot, and she headed off to the shoot. I'm gonna put some face powder on today because why not take another chance? Is it another chance? I don't know. Why not do a crazy dance? Blah, 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 blah. Anyway, what the hell? Hi, boo. Do you mind? Would you like me to use your tail to put on my powder? Should we do that today? We could just use your tail. Later on that day, when her mother did not receive the phone call from her like she said she was gonna do, her mother, of course, knew that something was not right. And at first, everyone was just saying like, oh, you know what? This is Linda. She's probably just working or doing something like that out at an audition, you know. And they knew that she had that Married with Children audition anyway. So they were like, probably she's still at that thing. But hours later, when her mother still could not get in contact with her, she contacted the production and they said that Linda hadn't shown up to her audition that day either. And this audition obviously was not something that Linda would miss. Like, this was her chance, her opportunity, her break into the industry. She would never miss an audition like this. So her mother knew right off the bat. Even before the audition, her mother knew. But when they heard this piece of information, oh, her family was like, no, we contacted the police. So her parents filed a missing persons report with the police. They hung up flyers everywhere. I think they said it was like 50,000 something flyers that they were posting looking for her, with a $25,000 cash reward for any information leading to her discovery. But nothing really came of it, you guys. And it's so sad because watching the video footage, her parents was just going to everywhere that they could think of that she may have been. They were going to all the businesses and shops in the area asking, hey, can we just post flyers here in the window? We're missing our daughter and we're offering a $25,000 reward for any information leading to her discovery. And of course, most of the businesses were like, yeah, you can for sure post the flyers in here. It was just so heartbreaking to see her parents, especially her mom, like just how heartbroken she was that her daughter was missing. And even though it had only been a couple of hours and maybe just a few days, you could just tell that she knew something was not right in her, just how upset that she was. You can tell it wasn't something where she was thinking, oh, you know, probably it's okay, she's fine somewhere. Like, she knew. Okay, you can call it mother's intuition, but I would just call it female intuition. We know when something's up. Even when you think we don't know that something's up, we know that something's up. Okay, we might act like we don't know something's up, but we know something's up. A lot of things, women, we keep to ourselves. Okay, we know, but we just keep it to ourselves because we waiting for all the evidence to add up. Such a talented, beautiful young woman with so much ahead of her, all of a sudden just disappears after going to a photo shoot. So investigators and the family were trying to find out, did Linda ever go to that shoot in the first place? Did something happen on her way back from the shoot? Did something happen on her way to the audition? They couldn't really figure it out, like what happened to her. She just disappeared into thin air and no one knew what happened with her. No one seemed to have saw her or anything like this. And we're talking about LA. There's a lot of effing people here in LA, guys, trust me, like too many. It's like overpacked and populated with people, and there's always people out on the streets hanging out, you know, especially at the beach, like in a beach area. I mean, she's a stunning girl, so I think that I would have noticed her, and I think other people, but you never know, because out here in LA, everybody's stunning. Well, not everybody, but you know what I mean. Everybody is like always dressed to the nines. Everybody's in shape. Everybody's trying to look good and compete with each other. So it's kind of normal, a girl like that, I guess, walking on the beach. Now, a girl like that walking on the beach in Chicago, somebody would have noticed her ass, because people ain't looking like her, ain't walking out on the beach like that. You got the regular, real folk out there. So, but in LA, there's tens of thousands of them. So I can understand how she could get kind of swept away in the crowd and nobody see her. And so Linda's mom, she started calling all of the girls in Linda's address book and like all of her friends and stuff, and none of the girls had spoken to Linda. They hadn't heard anything from her. They didn't even know that she had a photo shoot that day, which was odd because Linda would always tell someone, like I said, where she was going. It was like her rule for herself. I put face powder on before I put this on. What's wrong with me today, guys? We're doing everything backwards, but you know what? I told you, something's off today. So they were thinking, well, her agency must have the information to this photographer and the location since it was a modeling job. But actually, Linda did not book the job through her agency. She did her own booking, so she self-booked herself. Right. A few days later, a man was hiking in the Angeles National Forest and he found some pictures in the trash can. Now the pictures, they were of Linda, and he says that the pictures were so well done, I'm sure they were, sir, that he decided to take them home. Now, who knows how long this guy kept the photos, but he kept them in his backpack and forgot about them until he saw Linda on the news and Linda's investigation had popped up. And he thought to himself, wow, those images look familiar. And so he went to his backpack to check, and sure enough, the photos that he had was of Linda. So he immediately took them down to the police station for police to look at, and he told them, you know, I was on my hike in the Angeles National Forest. He told them exactly where he was when he found them and what trash can he found them in. And he said, you know, he took the photos home because they were great quality images. Okay, dude. No. So police were thinking, okay, what was her images doing in the Angeles National Forest trash bin, and was there any other items around, you know, that area that belonged to Linda? Because maybe she's over there. Who knows what happens? Maybe she's camping out somewhere. I don't know, guys. The next thing that investigators wanted to do was to find this photographer, because they felt like if they could locate the photographer, he could give them more information. I'm sorry, this cat is Lucy is acting up. See, you guys, this is you see this? You guys see this? Yeah, this is all the time. I have to hold her like this. Sometimes I have to walk her like this. So they're trying to locate this photographer because they're thinking he probably has information to the whereabouts of Linda. He was supposedly the last one to see her, so far as what they know. Well, they know that she was on her way to this photo shoot before she disappeared, and so they needed to find this photographer. During police investigation, they found that just 2 years earlier, the skeletal remains of another blonde model had been found near the same location as those photos were found in. That model's name was Kimberly Padalios, and she was only 20 years old when that happened to her. And just like Linda, you guys, she also had been called out to some random last-minute modeling gig and had gone missing, and with no idea who the photographer was. No one had any information on the photographer. She hadn't gone through her agency at all. I mean, if this teaches you anything, go through your agent, or at least take a friend or somebody with you. Definitely just go through your agent. Go through your agent, or bring a police officer with you. I don't know what else to say. Her murder was never solved. So police thought that perhaps Linda was somewhere in the Angeles National Forest, which was extremely overwhelming to them because they were thinking, oh my God, we are never going to find her in a forest this large. The Angeles National Forest is about 1,000 square miles. It's said to be the size of Rhode Island. So that is what this search team were up against. This was really discouraging to them because they felt like if she is in there and she's alive, there is a chance that we might not get to her in time. And you know, who knows what could happen? She could be eaten by a wild animal out there. There was a chance that they would never find her. Days went by without any new leads or clues to where Linda may have disappeared to. Investigators at this point were starting to suspect foul play. It wasn't until a few days later when a commercial photographer came forward. His name was Charles Rathbun, offering police some new information about Linda's disappearance. I'm assuming this is the motherfucking photographer, everybody. Well, where you been at, sir? We've been looking for you all over the place, but now you want to show up? And he told the police that he did in fact meet Linda that day, that morning. He said that they met at a Denny's where they went over Linda's portfolio, and after that they just left. Linda went her way, he went his way, and that was the end. Bada bang, bada boom. Huh? Why? She does this when I'm editing too. If my hands seem like I'm invested or I'm too busy in something, she instantly comes over and is like, So police went to that Denny's and they found Linda's car in the parking lot. And they sent it off to the forensics lab, but it came back with no signs of evidence of foul play. Now, even though they didn't find any evidence of foul play, the police were still suspicious because, this is odd. She supposedly met you at this Denny's and you guys went your separate ways, yet her car is still here at the Denny's and she's not. However, police did find in that trash bin where Linda's photos had been dumped and that guy had found them. They also found Linda's address book, or she had like her date book in there, along with some sort of rental agreement from a car place. It was like for a Lexus. So on that rental document, guess whose name was on there? That's right. Charles Rathbun's name was on those documents. When confronted with the rental agreement, Charles told investigators that he did in fact rent the Lexus. It was for the photo shoot that he was doing for a sports magazine that was coming out later on that week, and that the rental agreement most likely got mixed up in Linda's portfolio photos and he probably just accidentally, gave it all back to her before they left. He told investigators that he had returned the vehicle after the shoot and, that was pretty much it. So investigators, they obviously wanted to check out this vehicle, and so they went to the car rental place and they got some sort of warrant to obtain the vehicle and take it into the forensics lab for testing. And they did find some clues in there as to what may have happened in that car. They found a red stain in the back seat of the car, which appeared to be blood. What's up with that, Charles? Forensics lab did their testing. It came back positive for human blood. Forensic scientists ran phenolphthalein tests on those blood items to come to their findings, and they also found that in the cargo area of the car there was a car cover and it also had traces of blood on it as well as saliva. At this time, investigators had no other evidence, so they needed to dig a little deeper. They wanted to find out if the Lexus had been in the Angeles National Forest where Linda's photos were found. The forensic scientists used Vaseline on the tires, so they spread this Vaseline all over the tires. They then rolled the tires over a huge white poster board. After that, they sprinkled something called magnetic fingerprint powder on top of it, and it created the tire track, like I was about to say the fingerprint, basically like a fingerprint. It created the tire track on the poster board. So now they had a really large impression of the tire track, which they were going to take to the Angeles National Forest and see if they could match it to any tire tracks near that area. Well, this is obviously going to be difficult because that forest is massive. It's the size of Rhode Island. It's a 1,000-mile forest. In the meantime, while they were doing that, they also decided to go back and do a second interview with Charles. Now, Charles, he was a 38-year-old freelance photographer that was not super popular, but he was well known. A lot of people said he did really good work, and he did work for some legitimate big magazines. I mean, he was doing that auto magazine that I think is called Auto Week. I think that magazine is still around, if I'm not mistaken. Armed with the receipts that they found in the vehicle, along with the blood and saliva evidence and the tire tracks and everything that they had found thus far, they decided to go to Charles's home to, try and re-interview him. However, before they could even interview him a second time, they were called out to his home on November 22nd, I believe it was a Wednesday, because guess what, you guys? He was threatening to commit suicide. He was threatening to kill himself. And so police actually ended up responding to that call instead of going and picking him up for questioning. When they got on the scene, they found Charles with a gun, threatening to shoot himself, as well as a female that also lived with him. It might have been his girlfriend. As they described, she had been slightly wounded just moments before the police showed up. She has some non-life-threatening wounds. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what homeboy was doing up in there. Maybe he thought if he did this whole shebang, he could create a diversion. Now it's time to go into the palettes. But anyway, back to the story. Once Charles was in police custody, he became very, very upset. He started to cry and tell police that once in police custody, Charles broke down and started crying. He confessed to killing Linda. He said that it was an accident, that he had killed her in some horrible car accident. According to him, after they met at Denny's, he and Linda drove out to the location for the shoot. He told her that she was to drive in the Lexus. She was to be the model driving the Lexus and doing these donuts. He said that Linda didn't know how to do it, and she asked him to demonstrate what he wanted her to do. He was claiming that he had gotten into the vehicle to demonstrate to Linda what he needed her to do for her assignment that day. So he started to drive at really high speed, doing 360-degree donuts. And Linda was standing outside near the car, and she was watching him. And that is when he lost control and accidentally ran Linda over. Sir, are we supposed to believe this? I don't know. He was so scared from what he had done that the next couple of hours he spent driving around with Linda in the Lexus, in the car, in the back of the car, before driving to the Angeles National Forest, where he dug a shallow grave and buried her there. Now, while police were interviewing him and asking him, okay, where is the exact location of Linda's body, he just kept crying and saying, I don't know, I don't remember, I'm not sure, but I'll take you there, I can take you there. And so police was like, okay, let's go. Now, the funny thing about Charles's little story, the little he ran her over story, was that the Lexus showed no signs that the vehicle had actually been in any sort of accident. It didn't have any dents on it. It had no blood on the outer parts, on the exterior parts of the car, I should say. So basically, the evidence that the police collected from the vehicle was not consistent with Charles's story. Investigators were even suspicious about Charles' story that he had actually killed Linda. They were thinking that Linda might possibly still be alive. Maybe he's holding her captive somewhere or something like that. Basically, he took the police on a wild goose chase. He kept taking them to different locations, making them drive all around this freaking national forest and all over goddamn LA, when he knew the entire time where he had buried Linda, obviously. But he was just trying to stall and buy himself time. He was hoping that the body would be decomposed before police got to it. For obvious reasons, I think most likely because the way he said she died, she actually didn't die, and he didn't want her body to have that autopsy report and it reveal how she really died. So police was getting tired of his ass and his games, so they decided to just use a helicopter, and they kept pressing his ass like, tell us where she is. And every time he gave a new location, they just took a helicopter out there. They were like, we're not gonna deal with this. We're not gonna have our men out here on foot or driving around when obviously you're playing games with us. So finally, after numerous failed attempts to find Linda's body, finally Charles decided, for whatever reason, that he would actually tell police where Linda's body really was. Why do all of that? Like, if you're just gonna give up anyway. I wonder if they like offered him something to make him tell. I don't know for sure. I'm just wondering. So finally they find Linda's body. It was buried in a shallow grave. It was like, the shallow grave was only about 2 inches deep. It wasn't even that deep. In fact, the grave was so shallow that one of Linda's arms was found sticking up out of the grave. That is horrific. I can only imagine if someone else had found that, like a regular ass person and not the police. How horrifying must that be? They also found the tire tracks impressions near the grave as well, and it did match the tire track impressions found on the Lexus, from the Lexus. So they knew that this was the right spot. So they started digging, and just like Charles had told them, they found Linda's body in this shallow grave. They did bring in a forensic archaeologist to kind of pick up anything that he could find that would help them pretty much tell the story of what happened to Linda, how she got that way. Due to the high weather temperatures, police were pretty sure they were not going to find Linda's body like in good condition. They were thinking that they might find her completely liquefied because it's super hot. But Linda's body was actually perfectly preserved, they said. They said that when they found her, she was fully clothed. She had a full-blown outfit on, and she was perfectly positioned laying there. She was wearing a shirt and some shorts, and her body didn't appear to have any bruises or wounds or anything that you could physically see like with the naked eye. There was no indication that she had been in this horrible accident like Charles had told them. Freaking Charles, man. Just keeps lying and sending people on wild goose chases. I'm ready to hang this man for what he done. No, I'm just kidding. I wouldn't hang anybody. That's so terrible to say. But I mean, dude, I'm done with him. Also, I forgot to say this earlier, but when Charles agreed to take the police to find Linda's body, and while he was taking him on his wild goose chase, right before that he made another suicide attempt on his life. He had taken a razor blade and tried to slit both of his wrists, but police actually felt that it was a half-hearted attempt. They felt that he was just being dramatic. I don't know how true that is. Linda's body was recovered and sent back to the coroner's office for an autopsy report. And during Linda's autopsy report, the coroner could not find any signs that she was a part of any traumatic car accident whatsoever. They didn't find any broken bones, any broken ribs, nothing that traumatic that would lead to her death. So if she hadn't died that way, then how had she died? It was also determined that she had a blood alcohol level of 0.13, which is, I believe, well over the legal limit at that time. However, due to the extreme weather conditions, the heat of California, the body hadn't obviously been kept cold, and if a body is not kept cold after death, post-mortem fermentation starts to kick in and occur, which can cause a false positive in blood alcohol level results. Linda did have a wound on her upper right ear. There was some sort of bruising or blood there, but besides that, nothing else to indicate she had been hit by a car. While the medical examiner did have questions whether or not Linda had been drinking alcohol at the time of her death or right before her death, There was evidence that she had definitely been sexually assaulted. The medical examiner found that her cause of death was not from a motor vehicle accident, but it was actually due to asphyxiation. She had hemorrhaging in the eyes, the neck, and the lungs, which showed asphyxiation, obviously due to strangulation, they thought. This is also a sign that Linda was awake. She was still alive as she was being strangled, and there was other bruises and markings on her. She had bruises around her neck. Her left arm was twisted, and she had some ligature marks on her ankles. The medical examiner was able to tell that the ligature marks on her ankles and her legs were due to her legs being forcibly opened in a sexual assault. They were able to tell this also because she had ligature marks up and down the insides of her legs, as though, you know, someone had been forcibly holding her down as she struggled against them. They also found that her body had been washed. She was wearing no makeup, and she wasn't even in the outfit that she had came in. It was as though Charles had washed her and redressed her in a fresh set of clean clothing, like a new outfit. It's weird. It's really weird. Also found evidence of forcible sodomy. Jesus Christ. Police had always had their suspicions about Charles's story, but now they had the proof that he was not telling the truth about what happened that day, that he murdered her. And a medical examiner found Linda's cause of death as asphyxiation due to strangulation. Police did a background check on Charles Rothburn. Now, while doing their background check on Charles, they say that he appeared to be the average guy during school, but then they found in June of 1979 he was charged with rape in Worthington, Ohio. You know, just the average guy charged with rape. Yeah, that guy, you know. Seriously, I don't know why they ever let these guys back out. I mean, if they did it once, they're probably going to offend again. It's just like common sense, guys. Common sense. By the way, some of you guys were asking me about my lashes. I always leave the other products I'm using in the description so you can check for these lashes, but they're Amazon brand lashes, and I just cut them in half and use them as half lashes like that. I cut them myself. So the story with this other victim now, she had worked with Charles Rothburn when he was a lot younger. When he was 22 years old, they worked together in a supermarket, and that is where he attacked her, and he told her if she made a sound, he would kill her. And they let his ass out again. Now get this, you guys. After he did that to her, he came back later to her and apologized. He said that what he had done to her was wrong. Obviously, dude. Well, could you have come to that conclusion before you did it, sir? I guess not. Okay, whatever. He says that what he did was wrong and he feels terrible about it, and he wants to be punished because he deserves to be punished, and he tried to tell people about it, but nobody believed him. He said that he was sick, but then in court, he sung a different tune. He pleaded not guilty to the charges, and his lawyer argued that it was consensual sex and not an attack on that victim. And guess what? He was acquitted, you guys. He was acquitted for that one. So he got away with it. So what happened to the, oh, I'm so wrong and I'm so sick and I need to be punished, but then you go into court and plead not guilty? You want the people to come after you, don't you? You want the people to come after you. That's what you want. Now, after this whole thing happened and he was acquitted from the charges, he did clean up his act somewhat, a little bit, and he started to not get into any trouble. He moved to Detroit and he was working as a photographer. He got into photography. He really focused all his attention on photography, and he was working for advertising agencies and other companies and marketing companies and things like that. So he was only working with cars. He wasn't working with women or other models or anything like that. So I guess he thought that maybe he was healed or he was safe. And in 1989, he moved to California, where he started, you know, his career as a photographer, taking photos for a local car magazine. He became quite successful at what he was doing. He was doing calendars and, like I said, print ads for car magazines. It seemed as though he was really staying out of trouble and trying to focus on not committing crimes against women, which is, I mean, it should be like an automatic, that should be what you're doing, but I guess not for some people. While he was respected in his line of work as a photographer, people said that he was very punctual, always on time, and most of the times he was professional. But then there would be some times where he would be very rude and abrasive. According to some employees of his that worked for him before, they say like he could be a really nasty guy, and he actually lost a few assistants because of his bad attitude. And this employee also said that one time he got so angry that he threw something at the employee. They said that Charles started to show up to set after some time, and he would start coming on to the models. He would show up drunk, and just his behavior basically was starting to change from the way that it used to be when he first started. And it wasn't good. It was very nasty, very unprofessional, and just pretty much gross. He was a gross dude. And because of this behavior, he started to build this reputation as a really weird photographer. A lot of the models didn't want to work with him, like they refused to work with him, because when they would get to set, he would come on to them so strong, and when they said no, he would get so angry at them. So models started to complain that he had such an erratic behavior. They said that he would be very nice and impressionable when they spoke with him on the phone and when they initially met him, and then they would begin to work together, and he would go behind the camera and start acting like a complete douche. Like he would just lose it. He would insult the models, and I mean, it was very bizarre. In fact, they started to think perhaps he had bipolar disorder. Police did a search of Charles Ratburn's home, and they found over 200 guns in the house. Like, what in the heck? Why would someone even need over 200 guns? Like, why that number? 200 is a lot of freaking guns. Like, damn, what was this dude trying to do? Start an army? He said that he just had a hobby and collected guns. Part of this collection, police found a .45 automatic pistol. They did take this weapon and send it off to forensics lab for DNA testing, and they wanted to find out if there's also any blood on the weapon, because the sexual assault specialist felt that the weapon may have actually been used in the sexual assault itself as a object to sexually assault her. Now, initially, the forensic scientists didn't find any blood with their naked eye. They couldn't see anything under a telescope. But when they ran a presumptive test on the gun, they did find traces of blood evidence on it. Now, upon speaking with Charles's friends, they did find that Charles had an issue with blonde women. He actually did not like blonde women, and in fact, he didn't like many women at all, but he definitely did not like blondes. And they found out that he had actually referred to Linda as a little bitch before in the past to his friends. He had complained that Linda was difficult to work with. She was a spoiled little bitch, is what he said. Probably something happened to this dude when he was younger. Maybe his mom was blonde or something, or he got let down in high school by some blonde girl. I don't fucking know. Something happened though, you know? Most of these things come from some sort of childhood trauma. So the police went down, picked up Charles, and they charged him with the murder of Linda. But he continued to maintain his innocence. He was persistent and saying that He did not do it on purpose. It was an accident. He had accidentally ran her over, and he just kept sticking to his story, although the forensic evidence clearly pointed elsewhere. He just, I don't know, maybe he just thought that he could outsmart them, and if he just kept saying he didn't do it, perhaps he would get away with it. Now he was changing his story in court again. He said that Linda was drinking when she got to set, and while he was doing the donuts, showing her how to do the donuts in the car, he accidentally hit her, and that's when she fell over. She didn't die. She was still alive now. This time she was still alive. She just was too injured to move, so he picked her up and he was trying to carry her to the car, but she was so angry and upset at him that she was kicking and screaming and fighting against him, and while he was trying to help her. And so in the course of all of this, he accidentally strangled her. That he didn't mean to do it, he was just trying to help her, and that's the reason why he decided to cover up the murder. Obviously, police were not buying this because Linda was a professional model. There is no way that she would be drinking on a professional shoot at work. The other thing is that Linda had that Married with Children audition later on that day after the shoot. So why would she drink? And if that wasn't enough, this guy had the audacity to admit to having sex with Linda, but then he told the court that it wasn't forced, it was actually consensual, the same crap that he pulled at the last victim's court hearing. And not only that, he had the nude photos to prove it. Like, what did this guy, did this man seriously take photos of himself raping this woman and thought that he was going to show them to the court and tell them that that was consensual? I mean, I'm just like, did he really have those images or was he lying? Charles claimed that before the shoot, he and Linda had consensual sex and that he still had the rolls of film, and that the rolls of film were up in El Mirage Desert where they had shot the photos. Instead of giving the location of the photos to police and to his lawyer, instead he gave the location of the photos to his brother, which I don't even understand that. Like, why not just give it over to police? But he gave the location of the film to his brother. His brother and his brother's wife then drove out to El Mirage in the desert and found these rolls of film up in the spot where he said that they were. And they were undeveloped film, and they had been exposed to the sun, obviously, so they had some sun exposure to them. And instead of delivering these rolls of film again for the second time to the police, his brother and his wife decided to go and develop the rolls of film themselves. And you could say they did this because they didn't really trust police. You could say whatever you want, but my question is just, why wasn't the rolls of film handed over to the police? Like, why was his brother allowed to go get this film in this mysterious spot? Like, he didn't tell anybody else about the film, just his brother was allowed to go get it. Whatever. I don't know why police couldn't get some sort of warrant, or I don't know, but they developed the images and they see that the images are not nude photos. They are in fact of Linda Sobek, but they are not nude photos of her. They are photos with her that are normal. She's wearing her normal sundress with some pantyhose on, and they seem to be just normal images. They did notice though that in one of the images where Linda was pulling up her dress, that you could see her pantyhose and that there was a huge tear in the back of her pantyhose. This led them to speculate that perhaps the images that were taken of her that day was forced. I looked at the images as well, and she really looks a little off in her face. It's like she's trying to model, but you can tell that something's a little bit off, almost a little bit sad or scared or something. So yeah, this led investigators and the prosecution to believe that that photo shoot was forced. Now, Linda did pose in 2 different outfits that day, and they said that in some of the images, Linda's clothing was kind of, it didn't look like it was straight. It looked like it had been tampered with or pulled off, or it just wasn't sitting on her body like a person would normally wear their clothes. Most of the film was damaged. The 5th roll of film that they found had some water damage as well as some sun damage done to it, but when they developed it, they were able to get a few clear images out of it, and a couple of the images was of Linda in the car, I would say semi-nude in a provocative pose. Her legs were up on the dashboard of the car. And then the next couple of images that was on that roll of film was of a woman's private areas, and you couldn't see who the woman actually was. Her head wasn't in the shot, her chest wasn't in the shot, her legs wasn't in the shot. You could see parts of her hands, but mostly it was just a woman's private area, like a close-up on her private area, you know what I'm saying? So who knows whose private area that is? That could be his brother's wife's private area. For all we know, they could have drove out to the desert and gotten those rolls of film, and while they were out there also took images of themselves and posted as Linda's yoni, her private area. Nobody knows. So of course the defense argued that this was proof that Linda had taken these nude images with Charles and they had consensual sex that day. The prosecution returned with, well, we don't even know if these images are of Linda or not. This could actually be of somebody else, like I said. So they sent the photos to the sheriff's photo lab, and they also got help from an aerospace company. They were able to enhance the photos, and it took about 3 days for them to come to their conclusion. The specialists looked through the images frame by frame. They were able to sharpen each pixel until they got a clear image. They were able to get a reflection of the inside of the vehicle, and they saw that in the background of this image there was the steering wheel of the vehicle, and the steering wheel wasn't the steering wheel from the Lexus. In fact, it wasn't any Lexus at all. It was of an Oldsmobile. They were able to see that the entire inside of the car was different, that the gears were different, the buttons in the vehicle was different. Everything was different because it was a different car. It was not the Lexus that he had rented that day when he was shooting Linda. It was actually an Oldsmobile, a completely different vehicle on a completely different day. Busted. Now, even though it was a completely different car that the image was taken in, they still didn't know if Linda was the one in the photo or not. So they compared the woman's body in the photo to Linda's autopsy photos, and they were able to come to the conclusion that the image was not in fact of Linda. I mean, it was clear, like as clear as you can get. They were all up in there, and it was clear that it wasn't her private areas, her yoni. It wasn't hers, okay? It was somebody else's. According to the forensic pathologist, they say that the hair in the photo, the little hair that they could see in the reflections, was wrong. They say that the dress that she was wearing was wrong, and even the hands, the parts of the hands that were seen in the photo was wrong. They said that this woman's hands seemed to be more masculine than Linda's hands, so it wasn't freaking Linda. Like, I mean, all we had to do was see her vagina. Oops, I said vagina. I don't even know if I can say that on here, but I've already said it. All we had to do was see her vagina to know that it wasn't her. I mean, that's a pretty accurate comparison, I think, you know? I was thinking that I would do a pink lip for Valentine's Day to give you guys a nice, very like sweet tart candy look. It's a hard pass for me. Can't do it. Thanks to forensic science and some good police work, Charles Rathen was convicted of first-degree murder and sodomy and was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. What did you guys think about this case and my makeup look? Please let me know in the comments down below. If you like videos like these, you can check out my last episode. I'll leave a link on the screen right here or right here. Like, comment, subscribe, and share. Please share because it really helps me out. And I'll see you guys next week with another Forensic Friday, Saturday, or Sunday episode. Happy Valentine's Day!